I was 13 the year my life changed in a wonderful way. I was a shy in-between, small for my age, and developing slowly in puberty compared to my peers. It was a lonely time for me, particularly since my mom was raising me alone, far from extended family, but also because I was leaving behind the safety and comfort of being a child, whose whole world is his mother. One of the fondest memories I have from childhood is a love of dressing up for Halloween. I must have learned the love of costume from my mother, Madeline Maddie, to her friends, who was a true fashionista when it came to makeup, dresses, and hairstyles. She loved helping me with a costume each year, and whatever she put together almost always won the Halloween costume contest at the town fair. However, by age 13 I had not participated in the contest for a few years, having passed the age limit. In some ways I think it made Mom a little sad that she no longer got to play dress up with me. But the year I turned 13 the town's middle school announced its first Halloween dance and costume contest. The thought of dressing up in costume brought back wonderful memories, but the dance made me uneasy, since the few friends I had no interest in dances, especially ones where shy boys might be asked by a girl to dance. I was unsure if I would go. And if I did, what I would be. I talked it over with Mom, and her face lit up like sunshine. She said she knew the perfect costume, but would not tell me what it was, saying that she wanted it to be a surprise. I enjoyed surprises, and trusted my mom without question, so I agreed. She took a few of my measurements and retreated to her sitting room with her cell phone. Whatever the costume she had planned, it was nice to see her so happy. The day of the dance finally arrived. It was on a Friday night, and that afternoon, as I walked toward the school bus, I was surprised to see Mom waiting for me just outside the front entrance. She explained as we walked to our car that we needed a lot of time to get ready and the costume shop was on the other side of town, so we had to go straight there from school. After a half-hour drive, we parked in front of an old converted brick warehouse with all manner of shops inside: flower stalls, card shops, knick-knack stores, boutiques selling only bedroom attire. Mom hastily walked past by all of them, making straight for a shop toward the back with a frosted glass door and lilac lettering that read Lydia's Spa, Coiffures, and Perfumer. Just inside the front door there was a large, elegantly appointed reception room with a beautiful young woman sitting behind a white, delicately curved desk. Behind the woman I noticed two frosted glass doors, one marked Spa and the other Salon. Placed throughout the room, in small groupings, were plush lilac cushioned chairs and settees. A few perfectly attired ladies sat talking softly to one another, pausing in their gossip just long enough to look us over. The woman behind the desk introduced herself as Ashley and spoke to my mother, saying, "You must be Ms. Adams." "Please, call me Madeline," my mother replied. She never liked the formality of last names. Mom confirmed her appointment for me with Ashley and then told me that the ladies from the store were going to prepare me for the dance, and that she would run a few errands while I was getting ready. Ashley said, "Don't worry, sweetie, some things may seem a bit unusual here for a boy, but trust us, we'll take good care of you." I thought, okay, Mom knows what she's doing, and she certainly wouldn't leave me with people she didn't trust. Ashley spoke briefly on the desk phone, letting someone know that she'd be escorting a new client, and asked someone on the other end to cover reception. She took me by the arm and led me through the inner door. I could see out of the corner of my eye that the ladies in the reception area were looking at me and whispering to each other, but I could not hear what was said. I was led down a hallway with doors on each side spaced every few feet. At the fifth door she stopped and led me inside. The room's walls were a light shade of lilac, which seemed to be the predominant color of the shop, and in the middle was a white padded table, much like a doctor's examination table, a white leather-covered stool, a white wooden wall hook with a short white terrycloth robe and matching towel, and a pair of white rubber flip-flops beneath. Ashley told me to change into the towel, put the robe on over that, slip into the flip-flops and come out. She'd be waiting for me. I did as she instructed, and when I joined her in the hallway she gave me a quick glance up and down that made me feel a little vulnerable. Without a word, she turned on her heels and started walking further down the hallway. I immediately fell in line behind her, wondering where she was leading me. She stopped at a door marked prep room and led me into a small bathroom with floor-to-ceiling cabinets, shower stall, sink, and toilet, but no mirror, which I thought was a bit odd. "Remove the robe, but leave the towel," Ashley said, walking over to the cabinet. I was a bit nervous slipping the robe off and being so close to naked. "Don't be shy, it's just the two of us," she said, slipping on a pair of latex gloves and taking a jar from the cabinet. "Stand over here." I shuffled to the spot she pointed at and she immediately began to rub a lotion over my upper body, face, neck, chest, back, and arms, paying particular attention to my underarms. "Go put the robe on and drop the towel." I walked back to where I had hung the robe and slowly exchanged it for the towel, its shortness barely covering my private area. "Back here," Ashley said. I tugged at the hem of the robe, trying to keep myself covered. It did not matter anyway, since she proceeded to rub the lotion onto my lower body, legs, feet, and, embarrassingly, my butt and privates, paying particular attention to that entire area. "Now we wait," she said, returning the jar to the cabinet and tossing the gloves into a nearby wastebasket. "When you hear a bell, wash everything off in the shower, dry yourself with the towel and place everything in the hamper, and then go back to the first room. There's a fresh robe in the cabinet." I waited patiently, noticing the slightly odd smell of the lotion and the growing tingling sensation of it on my skin. The minutes felt like hours standing there in nothing but the short robe, while the tingling feeling on my skin slowly became a slight burning sensation. Just when I thought I could not wait a moment longer, I heard the soft ding of a bell coming from a speaker somewhere above my head. I made right for the shower, shedding the terrycloth robe straight to the floor. The cool water felt wonderful and I used my hands to softly spread it all over my now very warm skin. When the lotion finally appeared to be washed away and my skin felt refreshed, I grabbed the towel and dried off. It was then that I noticed an odd sensation. My thin body hair, just starting to come in, was completely gone. At first I panicked, realizing what the lotion must have been, but then I thought of Mom and how she would never let anyone do any real harm to me. I threw the towel and robe in the hamper as Ashley had instructed and donned the new robe, which was as short as the first one, but instead of terrycloth it was satin and lilac in color. It felt a little girly and I hesitated just inside the door, wondering if there would be anyone in the hallway. I peeked out and noticing no one, I quickly padded down the hall, trying to keep the robe's light hem in place, and made it back to the first room, where I found Ashley waiting for me. "Very good," she said, scanning my exposed legs and arms. "Now put this on." She handed me a pair of strange-looking, skin-colored rubber underpants. She turned to give me privacy and I examined the underpants a little closer, noticing a tube built into the front. "You'll need to slip your privates into the tube," she said, somehow anticipating the question forming in my head. "Be quick now, we have a lot more to do." I slipped on the rubber underpants and slid my penis into the waiting tube. It was then that I discovered that it flared a bit to cover my scrotum as well, and fit very tightly, forcing my privates down and underneath. The underpants also had thick layers around the hips and butt area. Ashley turned and gave me a quick inspection before walking to the nearby table where she mixed two thick liquids in a plastic bottle with a narrow tip. Shaking the bottle in her hand to thoroughly mix the liquids, she proceeded to squeeze a generous amount of the sticky substance inside the waistband and leg holes, working the lotion down inside the rubber underpants with her hands. Satisfied that the liquid was completely spread inside the underpants, she instructed me to lie down on the table and close my eyes while she added the next part of the costume. I felt her open the top of my robe and then an odd, sticky weight on my chest. "Keep your eyes closed until I tell you to open them," Ashley said. "It will just take a couple of minutes." I could feel Ashley holding the sticky weights on my chest as I slowly breathed in and out. After a bit, my skin under the weights and underpants began to feel a little tighter, and the sensation grew as the seconds ticked off. "You can open your eyes," Ashley said, removing her hands, although the weight on my chest remained. I lifted my head and saw two large, perfectly formed breasts on my chest. They looked completely natural and matched my skin color perfectly. I could not even tell where they ended and my skin began. Oh my god, I thought. Mom's making me into a girl for Halloween. Ashley must have noticed the horrified look on my face. Don't be upset, Andrew. Your mother planned this out perfectly. This is the beauty parlor where she worked before she had you. She arranged for you to be here just before closing so we could help in private. We're all her friends and can keep a secret. Trust us, no one will recognize you after we're done. I thought about it for a second. I trusted Mom. She had never led me astray before. And the breasts did look very real, even up close. Come on, Ashley said, pulling the top of the satin robe over the breast forms. The adhesive should be firm by now. Let's go into the salon and make you beautiful before getting you dressed. I slid off the table, causing the robe to hike up around my waist. You'll have to learn how girls sit and stand, sweetie. Otherwise you'll give everyone a nice peep show, she said, pulling my robe back down and arranging it properly on my body. I noticed my new curves under the satin robe. My hips, chest, and butt stood out quite a bit more now. Ashley led me down the hall back toward the reception area, and when she saw me hesitate just inside the door, she assured me that all the other customers had left. And there was nothing to worry about. We went through reception and entered the other door I had noticed, which led into a large salon with multiple workstations. My cheeks reddened when I noticed 3 women crowded around a workstation looking in our direction. Ashley pulled me forward and introduced me to Brittany, Courtney, and Danielle as if there was nothing unusual about my appearance. The 3 girls were delighted to meet me and very excited that my mother had asked them to help me dress up for Halloween. They immediately sat me in the workstation salon chair, lilac-colored leather of course, and Brittany started to put something on my head. This is a wig cap, she said. It helps to keep your hair out of the wig for your costume and also holds it in place. When Brittany was satisfied that the cap was placed correctly, she stepped away for a moment and came back with something that flashed out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look. No peeking, Courtney said, stepping in front of the chair. She gently turned my face back forward, and it was then that I noticed the workstation's mirrors covered with towels. Remember, it's a surprise. Brittany placed what I assumed was the wig on my head, and even though I was not purposefully looking, I could tell it was a long blonde wig from a few strands that fell within my peripheral vision. I felt Brittany briefly adjust it on the cap, spray it lightly with something, and then heard her preparing her hairstyling tools. Meanwhile, Courtney pulled up a low stool, took one of my hands and began to work on my nails with a file. Danielle stepped to the other side of the chair and gently held my chin, turning my face slightly one way and then the other, as if trying to decide on something. Ashley, what color will she be wearing again? Danielle asked. White, with hints of red. Let's go with red on lips and nails then, Danielle said to the other women, which means we'll need to have a flawless skin and keep the eyes subtle. Both Courtney and Brittany readily agreed it would be the best look for me. Danielle told me to close my eyes until she said it was okay to open them. I'll leave you girls alone while I go prepare the room for her costume fitting, I heard Ashley say. She'll be gorgeous when you see her again, Danielle replied. I could feel her rubbing something on my face and working it into every crease and corner. Some foundation to help smooth out the slight imperfections, Danielle said. And a few dabs of concealer. I felt Courtney switch to my other hand. What length do you think, ladies? Maddie liked the long ones best, Brittany said. Lucky girl, Courtney replied. And she'll look stunning with those curls. It was then I noticed the slight smell of hairspray being heated, and light tugs as Brittany moved from spot to spot on my head. I wanted to peek so badly, but Courtney reminded me once again not to look. I could feel her pressing something onto each of my nails while Danielle applied various brushes to my face, eyes, and cheeks. This may sting a bit, she said. I nearly jumped out of the chair when she plucked the first eyebrow hair. I just need to clean them up a little. Luckily, it didn't take her long, and she went back to work with the brushes, using a small one along both brows. She instructed me to hold still while she used something on my eyelashes. It felt cold, metallic. and was quickly followed by another brush. "Okay, sweetie, you're almost done," Danielle said. "Loosen your lips a little, dear, so I can make them gorgeous." She used something along the edges of my lips, followed by little stroking motions from what felt like a tiny brush. I could feel Courtney doing the same to my nails while Brittany sprayed something on my head. All three women finished at about the same time. "You can open your eyes now," Danielle said. My gaze immediately dropped to my fingers, the tips of which now sported long red nails. "You look absolutely gorgeous," Ashley said, stepping into view and taking me in. I hadn't heard her come back into the salon. "But we still have to get you in costume." I thanked the three ladies and Ashley told them she'd call when I was ready for the big reveal. I was led back to the prep room and instructed to place my robe in the hamper and stand in the center of the room. She lowered a bar attached to a pulley on the ceiling and told me to grab hold. "It would make the first part of dressing easier," she said. "Hold tightly now," Ashley said. And she lifted the bar so that my toes barely touched the floor. Working quickly, she wrapped a long white garment made of satin around my torso. It was stiff in places and had cups that perfectly cradled my faux breasts. "This is a corset," she said, as she hooked the front together. "It will make your waist smaller as the costume is very tight." Moving around behind me, she began tightening the laces. "Exhale," she said. Then pulled the laces taut. "Good. Again." She made me do this several times, each time the corset squeezed tighter around my waist and tummy. "That's perfect," she finally said when I felt like passing out. "Just take shallow breaths. You'll get used to it in a few minutes." A quick trip to the cabinet and Ashley came back holding a small bundle of white garments that she placed on the floor. From my hanging position it was difficult to see what they were, but Ashley held up each of the items before putting it on me. The first was a pair of white satin panties, which she told me to step into before pulling them into place around my now feminine bottom. The second were silk stockings with lace tops that she carefully rolled up each of my smooth legs and attached to the corset's ribbon garters. Finally, she placed 2 white, high-heel pumps on each stocking-clad foot. "Take little steps," Ashley said, lowering the bar and my feet to the floor so you can get used to the heels. She was right, the unfamiliar height took a little getting used to. I slowly took baby steps, flexing my stockinged legs while Ashley removed the bar and stored it in the cabinet. She then led me down the hall, teetering on my new heels, to the spa room where I had started this journey. Inside, laid out on the spa bed, was a short white dress. It had a short pleated skirt, a wide belt leading to the button front, and red crosses on the breasts. It was a nurse's costume and seemed oddly familiar. Ashley gingerly picked it up and helped me step into it as I balanced on the heels. It was then that I recognized it. I had noticed the costume in a store when I had been out shopping with my mother. I remember being fascinated by it, wondering how it would look on the blonde girl next door, who was graduating high school soon. But here I was wearing it. My mother must have seen my stares and put the plan into motion. Ashley topped off the uniform with a white nurse's cap, which she secured to my wig, and then led me back to the salon where Brittany, Danielle, and Courtney were all waiting. They gushed how beautiful I looked and fussed over me, making little adjustments to my hair and costume before they were satisfied I was ready to see myself. Ashley took me by the hand and, with the 3 ladies following, led me in front of a long curtain. "Ta-da!" They all sang out as Ashley pulled the curtain back to reveal a full-length mirror. I was completely speechless. Staring back at me was a beautiful blonde woman. Nylon-encased legs made shapely by high heels. Long red nails that contrasted prettily with my short, tight white dress. And my perfectly made-up face, with inviting red lips, big blue eyes with long dark lashes, framed by long blonde hair with gentle curls cascading to my shoulders. I was gorgeous. Ashley placed a long navy blue cape around my shoulders, and told me there was one more thing to do before my mom arrived to take me to the dance. I saw a bottle in her hand and she spritzed a sweet perfume on my neck and wrists. I guess we can't really call you Andrew now, can we? Ashley said, stepping back to admire the girl's handiwork. Maddie always said if she had a boy she'd name him Andrew. But if it was a girl, she'd call her Andrea. The ladies all agreed the new name fit. While we waited for my mother to pick me up and take me to the dance, they gave me a crash course on how to move, act, and dance like a girl. And while I relearned how to sit, walk, and bend down, I thought that they had been right. Mom had planned it perfectly.